My stepdaughter ignored me at her wedding and replaced me with her biological father, but when it came time to pay, I was already gone. Hey everyone. Before we dive in, I have a quick favor to ask. If you enjoy content like this, please hit the subscribe button. It's free, supports the channel, and ensures you never miss out on amazing videos. Alright, let's get started. I've been married to my wife Sarah for over 20 years. When we met, she was a single mother to a 5-year-old girl, Emma. Emma was a bright-eyed, curious little girl with a laugh that could light up a room. The first time I saw her, she was chasing a paper airplane in the park, holding Sarah's hand tightly as they walked toward me. Something in that moment told me they were my future. From the start, Sarah was upfront about her past. Emma's biological father, Mark, had always been unreliable, full of empty promises and fleeting appearances. He'd call on birthdays, drop off cheap gifts, and then disappear again. Emma would always get excited whenever he showed up, though Sarah tried to manage her expectations. When Sarah and I got serious, she made it clear that Emma was her priority. I accepted that wholeheartedly. What I didn't expect was how deeply I'd grow to love her. It wasn't immediate, but over time, every "I love you, Dad" and every little drawing with my name spelled wrong won me over. I was there when she learned to ride a bike after countless falls and scraped knees. I was there when she had a high fever in the middle of the night, holding her while Sarah rushed to get a thermometer. When she had her first school recital, I helped her practice her poem until she knew it by heart. On the big day, she trembled behind the curtain, but found my eyes in the crowd before she started, needing reassurance that I was there. I always was. Mark, on the other hand, was just a background character. He made big promises. Next summer I'll take you to the beach, or I'll buy you that bike you want, but never followed through. Emma used to cry when those promises fell apart, and I always picked up the pieces. I never wanted to be the reason she lost faith in her father. As she grew older, our bond only strengthened. I was the one who went to her school meetings, helped her pick out her graduation dress, and cheered her on from the bleachers at her games. She called me Dad, and even though I wasn't her father by blood, I knew she meant it. That's why what happened next broke me. When Emma went to college, I supported her without hesitation. I covered most of her tuition, books, and even her small apartment's rent. It was a financial sacrifice, but I didn't care. I wanted her to have the opportunity I never did. Mark, as always, remained inconsistent. He'd call sometimes to say, "Your dad is proud of you," but never contributed financially or played an active role in her life. When Emma graduated, she ran up to me after the ceremony, tears in her eyes. "Thank you, Dad, for everything." At that moment, every sacrifice felt worth it. So when Emma announced her wedding to Andrew, I was genuinely excited. I imagined walking her down the aisle, a symbolic moment reflecting everything we had been through. I never said it out loud, but I assumed that honor would be mine. After all, I had been there for her through every milestone. The weeks leading up to the wedding were filled with excitement. Emma talked about her dress, the flowers, the music. As always, I offered my support, paying for part of the reception, contributing to her dress, and covering extra costs. I never expected anything in return, except to be acknowledged as an important part of her day. Then the invitation arrived. I opened it with a smile, expecting to see my name in a special place. Instead, it was just a formal guest list. My name wasn't anywhere significant. Worse, Emma had chosen Mark to walk her down the aisle. At first, I thought it was a mistake, but when I asked her about it, her response hit me like a punch to the gut. There's only one biological father, and I've always wanted to give him this moment. I can't describe how that felt. Years of love, sacrifices, and effort dismissed like they meant nothing. But the worst part wasn't her choice. It was how casually she said it, as if it had never even crossed her mind to choose me. Her wedding day was one of the most humiliating days of my life. I arrived early in a suit I had tailored for the occasion, sat quietly among the guests, and watched as all eyes were on Mark walking Emma down the aisle. During the speeches, I waited, hoping someone would acknowledge me. No one did. I was invisible. Something inside me broke that day. The part of me that had always been willing to sacrifice simply shut down. I didn't know it yet, but that moment marked the beginning of a change that would alter everything. That moment, watching Emma walk down the aisle on Mark's arm, is burned into my memory. She was radiant, as any bride should be. But for me, the image was filled with bitterness. Not because I didn't want her to be happy, but because I realized in that instant that I was disposable to her. The week after the wedding, Emma and Andrew left for a luxury honeymoon, a beachfront resort with breathtaking views and top-tier amenities. I didn't ask much about it. I couldn't bring myself to engage in conversations about something that marked the breaking point of our relationship. What I didn't expect was what happened when Emma returned. She barely had time to unpack before calling me. Her tone was light, as if nothing had happened. She gushed about the beaches, the surprise dinner Andrew had planned under the stars. I listened in silence, responding with short answers, struggling to keep my composure. Then the conversation took a turn I should have seen coming. "Dad," she said, the familiarity of that word cutting deeper than I wanted to admit. "I need a favor. There had been some unexpected expenses on the honeymoon, and they were a little short on cash. Could I help cover the cost?" For a moment, I was speechless. The way she asked, so casually, so assured, like she simply expected me to say yes, just as I always had. I was the one who fixed things, who provided, who sacrificed for her without question. But this time, something in me refused. Maybe it was wounded pride, or maybe it was the weight of years of being overlooked. All I know is, for the first time, I didn't feel obligated to say yes. "I'm sorry, Emma," I said, keeping my voice steady though my heart pounded. "I can't help you this time." Silence. I could imagine the confusion on her face. "But you've always helped before," she finally said, disbelief in her voice. I took a deep breath. "Maybe you should ask Mark. He's your real father, isn't he? Maybe he can help." Another long silence. Then a quiet, "I understand," and she hung up. No argument. No anger. Just an abrupt ending that left an empty space in my chest. Later, Sarah confronted me. She called me cruel, said I couldn't just abandon Emma when she needed me. I told her it wasn't about money. It was about respect. I was there for her for over 20 years, Sarah, and when she had the chance to acknowledge that, she chose to act like it wasn't enough. I can't keep being her backup plan whenever things don't go her way. Sarah didn't understand. To her, blood always came first, even when that blood had done nothing but make empty promises. The conversation ended in silence, but something between us changed. An invisible wall formed where there had never been one before. Emma hasn't contacted me since right after that call. Sarah told me that Andrew was upset with me for abandoning Emma in a tough moment. Apparently, Mark had unsurprisingly vanished. No calls, no messages, nothing. I guess Emma was finally seeing the truth. But that didn't change what she had done, or how she had made me feel. That night, alone in the living room, I replayed every moment I had been there for Emma. Every time she had smiled and called me Dad. And I realized something. I had always believed that title was a choice, a recognition that I had earned my place in her life. But now I wondered if it was just a convenient word to her, something she said when it benefited her. I don't know if I can ever move past this, but one thing is certain. This time, I won't be the one to keep giving. Because honestly, I don't think I have anything left to give. Update: 3 months since the wedding, and despite my efforts to stay distant, drama keeps finding me. Sarah constantly tries to fix things between Emma and me, looking at me with that mix of disappointment and pleading, as if waiting for me to give in and go back to being the man who never said no. But what she doesn't understand, or refuses to accept, is that something inside me changed that day. I can't just go back to how things were. Since the call where I refused to pay for Emma's honeymoon, our relationship has completely faded. She hasn't reached out. And while that hurt at first, now it feels like relief. No more requests for money disguised as casual check-ins. What did surprise me, though, was how quickly problems started in her marriage. Sarah, of course, kept in constant contact with Emma and casually brought it up over dinner one night. "Emma and Andrew are struggling financially, Thwan." She sighed dramatically. "Andrew lost his job, and they're having trouble paying rent." I kept eating, already knowing where this was going. Sarah pressed on. "Don't you think we should help them? She's our daughter, after all." I sat down my fork and took a deep breath. "I'm not her father anymore, Sarah. According to Emma, that role belongs to Mark, so if she needs help, she should ask him." Sarah looked at me like I had just said something unforgivable. "How can you be so cold? She's always counted on you. You can't turn your back on her now." I let out a bitter laugh. Cold? Cold is what she did to me at her wedding. Because honestly, that's exactly how it felt. Cold and invisible. Like I never spent 2 decades being the one who was there for her. If Mark is her father for the big moments, then he can be her father in the difficult ones too. That ended the conversation. Sarah stormed off, taking her plate to the sink. That night, we slept in silence, back turned to each other. It hurt that this was affecting our relationship, but I couldn't keep being the man who gave and gave, getting nothing in return. Despite everything, Emma didn't take long to reach out, though not directly. A week later, I got a message from Andrew, short but heavy with desperation. "Hey, it's Andrew, Emma's husband. I need to talk to you about something important. Do you have time?" I didn't reply right away. I let the message sit there, a reminder of how much things had changed. I read it over and over, knowing exactly what he wanted: money. It was always money. Eventually, I decided to hear him out. I had nothing to lose. We met at a local cafe. Andrew was already there, nervously tapping his foot, staring at an untouched coffee. I sat down without a word, waiting for him to speak first. "Thanks for coming," he said finally, though his tone lacked sincerity. It felt more like an obligation. "I know things have been tense between you and Emma, but we're going through a tough time, and thought maybe you could help." There it was, the inevitable request. I kept my face neutral. "What do you need?" I asked, even though I already knew. Andrew sighed, staring at his coffee as if searching for the right words. Emma and I have been struggling financially since the honeymoon. I lost my job recently, and now we're behind on rent. If we don't pay in 2 weeks, we'll be evicted. I nodded slowly, letting his words sink in before asking the one question he clearly hadn't expected. Have you asked Mark? Andrew looked up, confused. Mark? No. We haven't talked to him. Emma thought, well, that you might help. You've always been there for her. I smiled, but it wasn't a kind one. It was bitter, ironic. Exactly, I said, leaning forward. And yet, when she had to choose, she picked Mark. So no, Andrew, I won't be helping this time. Maybe it's time for Mark to finally step up for once. Andrew tried to argue, saying it wouldn't be fair if they got evicted, that this wasn't just about Emma, but about him too. I held up a hand to stop him. This conversation is over, I said firmly. I wish you both the best, but I can't keep solving your problems. I stood up, leaving him alone with his cold coffee and his frustration. When I got home, Sarah was waiting for me, as if she already knew what had happened. I didn't give her details. She didn't need them. She could tell I had refused to help. Since then, Emma and Andrew have stopped trying. Sarah is still upset, though. She stopped pushing me to give in, but something tells me this isn't over. When a castle crumbles, there's always more debris to come. Update. 6 months have passed since the wedding, and to be honest, these months have been strangely liberating. I've stood firm in my decision not to involve myself in Emma and Andrew's problems, though it's meant dealing with Sarah's constant resentment. She doesn't say it outright, but I see it in her eyes. She still hasn't forgiven me for what she sees as a betrayal. No matter how many times I explain that this isn't about money, but about respect, she either doesn't understand or refuses to. But the distance between Emma and me has brought an unexpected relief. For the first time in years, I'm free from the weight of always being the one to hold everything together. I've started focusing on myself again, picked up old hobbies like woodworking, spent more time with friends, things I had neglected for far too long. At first, I felt guilty for taking this space for myself, but now I see it as necessary. Still, the drama hasn't stopped. A few weeks ago, Sarah told me that Emma and Andrew were finally evicted. They couldn't gather enough money to catch up on rent, and their landlord ran out of patience. Now they're staying with Andrew's mother in a cramped apartment, barely enough space for 2 people, let alone a married couple. Sarah was furious when she told me. This wouldn't have happened if you had helped them, she said, her tone full of the now familiar blame. I didn't bother responding. It didn't matter what I said. Sarah would always see me as the villain for any hardship Emma faced. What she doesn't realize is that deep down, I know I did the right thing. Emma chose to push me aside, and now she's facing the consequences of those choices. The irony? According to Sarah, Mark has been completely absent through all of this. He didn't even respond when Emma reached out for help. Not surprising, he's been unreliable his whole life. But I find it interesting, after all the effort Emma put into placing him on a pedestal, he's nowhere to be found when she actually needs him. A few days ago, while Sarah was cooking dinner, she told me something that almost made me laugh out loud. Emma says Mark promised to help her find a new place to live, but he still hasn't followed through. He says he's waiting for his finances to stabilize. I raised an eyebrow, looking at her in disbelief. And Emma still believes him? After a lifetime of broken promises, she still believes him? I asked, not with anger, but genuine curiosity. Sarah sighed, looking at me with sadness. He's her father, she said simply, as if that explained everything. That conversation lingered in my mind. For years I had tried to fill the void Mark left in Emma's life, but now I wondered, had it all been in vain? Maybe to her, biology always mattered more than actions. Maybe I was never competing with Mark's presence, but with the simple fact that he existed. A week ago, Emma finally reached out to me. Surprisingly, it wasn't about money. She sent a message asking to meet, saying she wanted to talk. I hesitated for a long time before replying, but in the end, curiosity won. We met at a park we used to visit when she was little. Emma was already there, sitting on a bench, nervously fidgeting with her hands. When I approached, she stood up and gave me a hesitant hug, one that didn't feel genuine. But I accepted it out of politeness. For a few minutes, we sat in awkward silence. Then she started talking, but not about why she had called me there. Instead, she spoke about how difficult it was living with Andrew's mother, the tension in her marriage, how much she missed having her own space. I listened without interrupting. I could tell she had a lot to unload. Then finally she got to the point. Dad, she said, a word that used to mean so much to me but now felt hollow. I know I've disappointed you. I know the wedding hurt you, and I don't think I realized how much until it was too late. I waited, letting her continue. Inside, I felt a mix of emotions. Disbelief, sadness, and a lingering resentment. Emma took a deep breath before adding, I just want to say I'm sorry for how things turned out. I never meant to make you feel replaced. But you did, I replied calmly but firmly. And not just at the wedding, Emma. Every time you ignored everything I did for you. Every time you chose to see Mark as something he never was. You say you didn't want me to feel replaced, but honestly, I don't think I was ever in that place to begin with. Emma looked down, visibly shaken by my words. Maybe she had expected me to simply accept her apology and return to how things used to be. But that wasn't possible anymore. Some things, once broken, can't be repaired. The conversation ended shortly after. As we said goodbye, she told me she hoped we could rebuild our relationship with time. I didn't respond, not because I didn't want it to happen, but because I wasn't sure it was possible. Emma didn't just break my heart. She shattered something deeper, my trust in her. Update: I did something neither Sarah nor Emma will ever forgive me for. And honestly, I don't know if I should even ask for forgiveness. For the past year since the wedding, my relationship with Sarah has crumbled beyond what I ever thought possible. What started as emotional distance has turned into an unbridgeable gap. The love, the bond, even the respect we once shared feels gone. We still share a house, but not a life. Since the wedding, there's been no intimacy. At first, I thought it was temporary, a result of stress. But as months passed, I realized Sarah wasn't just upset, she was resentful. She blamed me for Emma's suffering, and that resentment seeped into every part of our marriage. The nights we once spent talking or watching movies are now filled with silence. Every time I try to reach out, she pulls away, building a wall between us. And in the middle of that emptiness, someone else entered my life. Sophie. Sarah's best friend. She had always been around, the fun aunt to Emma, bringing extravagant gifts and telling funny stories. But after the wedding, something changed. She started calling more, checking in on me. At first, I thought she was trying to help fix things between Sarah and me. But over time, I realized it was more than that. Sophie was the only person who truly listened. She told me what no one else had, that I was right, that my feelings were valid, that I had been treated unfairly, that Sarah was being unfair to me. Our conversations became something I looked forward to. She didn't see me as the villain in this story. I won't say this was planned, because it wasn't. It just happened, like a river finding a new path. One night, after another long talk, we sat in silence, just looking at each other. We had talked about everything: how I felt invisible in my own home, how Sarah had grown cold, how my life felt like it was falling apart. Then, out of nowhere, Sophie took my hand and said something that left me speechless. "You deserve to be happy, and they aren't letting you." I don't know what made me lean in, her voice, the way she looked at me, but the next thing I knew, I was kissing her, and she didn't pull away. That night, I didn't go home. I spent the hours with Sophie, talking, laughing, letting months of repressed emotions finally surface. For the first time in a long time, I felt seen. I felt wanted. More importantly, I felt understood. I know what I'm doing is wrong, but I don't regret it. Sophie has been my escape. Someone who truly sees me. I found with her what I lost with Sarah: connection. Sarah suspects something. She watches me when I come home late or step out to answer messages, but she hasn't confronted me. Sophie struggles with guilt too, yet neither of us regret what we've done. I know this can't last. When Sarah finds out, there's no turning back. But for now, I don't feel so alone. Final update: 2 years have passed. Looking back, it feels like a distant storm, yet its scars remain. I've rebuilt my life, though I don't know if I can ever undo the damage. Sarah and Emma cut me out completely. In a way, they freed me. When I finally confessed, Sarah's reaction was even more intense than I had imagined. She confronted me before I could speak. "What is this? I've seen the way you've changed. Tell me the truth." I blurted it out. "Sophie and we've been seeing each other. She was there for me when no one else was." Sarah's face twisted from shock to fury. Then came the words that still haunt me. "So all of it, everything we built, meant nothing to you?" I stood there, speechless. Everything I had done was to keep my family together, but I had failed. "Sarah," I said, voice shaking, "while you were trying to save Emma, I lost myself, and you didn't even see it." She screamed so loud it hurt. "What you've done is unforgivable. How could you destroy our family?" Emma walked in. She already knew. Her voice was ice. "I thought you were better than this, but you never cared, did you? You just wanted to be the hero, and look what you've done." "That's not true," I said, trembling. "You pushed me away. You chose Mark, and when you needed something, I was just supposed to fix it. But when I gave you everything, it was never enough, was it?" "Enough!" Sarah yelled. "That doesn't justify this betrayal. Clara, let him go." And just like that, they told me to leave, to never contact them again. It hurt, but at the same time, I felt relief. There was nothing left to save. I moved into a small apartment. The divorce process was exhausting, but the real pain wasn't the legal battle. It was knowing the life I built was gone. Through it all, Sophie was there, my comfort, my motivation. She didn't excuse my mistakes, but she didn't judge me either. Months later, as I was finally piecing my life back together, I got a message from Emma. "Dad, I know I hurt you. I know I failed you, but you will always be my father. I'm sorry. I know things will never be the same, but I will always love you." I didn't reply right away. The wounds were still too deep. Maybe one day I'll find peace. But for now, I'm moving forward, no matter what I've left behind. Like today's story? A super thanks helps me keep bringing you the best daily content. Your support means I can keep doing what I love. Thanks for being awesome.